Welcome to Streaming News Network by Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. President Donald Trump says China has agreed to purchase 200 Boeing commercial aircraft following high-level talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing, a move that could reopen one of Boeing's most important overseas markets after years of strained relations. Trump described the agreement as a major economic victory for the United States, saying Boeing had originally hoped for an order closer to 150 aircraft, but China ultimately committed to 200 jets. The president said the deal would support American manufacturing jobs and strengthen trade ties between the two nations. However, investors appeared cautious after the announcement. Boeing shares dropped nearly 5% Thursday as questions remained about the details of the agreement. Neither Boeing nor Chinese aviation officials immediately confirmed the purchase, and no airlines were publicly identified as buyers. Uncertainty also surrounds the types of aircraft involved. Reports leading up to the summit suggested China had been considering a much larger package that could include Boeing's 737 MAX aircraft, along with widebody Dreamliner and 777X jets. Trump himself acknowledged the arrangement may not yet be finalized, describing it as more of a commitment or statement of intent rather than a completed contract. Aviation analysts say until formal airline orders are signed, the deal will not officially appear in Boeing's backlog. Released. This is Streaming News Network. Authorities in Alabama are investigating after a grenade-type improvised explosive device was discovered inside a reservoir that supplies drinking water to approximately 350,000 residents in the Mobile area. Officials say the device was found during a routine maintenance survey at the Converse Reservoir Dam. Divers inspecting the dam immediately contacted the Mobile County Sheriff's Office after spotting what was later identified as a grenade-style explosive device. A multi-agency response team was quickly assembled, including bomb technicians from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Mobile Police Department, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, the Mobile County Sheriff's Office, and the Daphne Search and Rescue Team. Authorities safely secured and detonated the device before any damage occurred. Mobile Area Water and Sewer System Director Bud McCrory described the incident as an unprecedented threat to the region's drinking water supply. He said officials were fortunate the explosive was discovered before it could endanger the reservoir or nearby workers. The Converse Reservoir serves as the only drinking water source for the greater Mobile area, raising concerns about both public safety and infrastructure security. Investigators are now working to determine how the explosive ended up in the reservoir and how long it may have been there. Officials also announced plans to strengthen security measures around the dam moving forward. This is Streaming News Network. Farmers along Hawaii's North Shore are facing devastating losses after back-to-back storms triggered the state's worst flooding in more than 2 decades. Fields once filled with crops are now buried beneath hardened reddish-brown mud left behind by floodwaters. Farmers say irrigation systems have been destroyed and entire harvests wiped out just weeks before they were ready for market. On the island of Oahu, farmer Bach Kongfan lost rows of lemongrass, cucumbers, and okra after floodwaters covered his property. Nearby farms suffered similar damage, with crops including choy sum, bitter melon, and tomatoes destroyed. Young banana, coconut, and mango trees planted before the storms are now turning yellow, with many unlikely to survive. The North Shore is best known worldwide for its massive surf, but it is also home to many small farms that help supply fresh food across the islands. Agriculture leaders warn the losses could have lasting effects on Hawaii's already fragile local food supply. Brian Miyamoto, executive director of the Hawaii Farm Bureau, said some farmers were only days away from harvesting before the flooding erased months of work. Many now face the difficult task of starting over from scratch. State officials are urging farmers not to give up, emphasizing that local agriculture remains essential for Hawaii's isolated island communities. This is Streaming News Network. Dennis Locorrier, longtime frontman and co-founder of the popular 1970s band Dr. Hook, has died at the age of 76 following what his management described as a long and courageous battle with kidney disease. According to a statement released Saturday, Locorrier passed away peacefully on May 16, surrounded by loved ones. The statement praised his strength, dignity, and resilience throughout his illness and remembered him for his warmth and lasting impact on family, friends, and fans around the world. Locorrier rose to fame alongside bandmate Ray Sawyer, who died in 2019. Originally performing as Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, The group became one of the defining acts of the 1970s with hits including the cover of the Rolling Stone, Sylvia's Mother, and When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman. Born in Union City, LeCourrier later spent more than 2 decades living in the United Kingdom. Over a career that spanned nearly 60 years, he recorded more than 18 albums and continued touring well into his 60s. Beyond performing, LeCourrier was also a respected songwriter, with music recorded by artists including Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, Olivia Newton-John, and Helen Reddy. This is Streaming News Network. 4-time National Football League Most Valuable Player Aaron Rodgers is reportedly returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2026 season after agreeing to a new 1-year contract. According to reports, the deal could be worth up to $25 million, including a base salary between $22 and $23 million, along with additional performance incentives. The contract is still expected to be finalized and officially signed. The 42-year-old quarterback once again delayed his off-season decision for weeks, continuing a pattern that has followed him in recent years. Rodgers previously signed with Pittsburgh last June after being released by the New York Jets earlier in 2025. Last season, Rodgers threw for more than 3,300 yards with 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions while leading the Steelers to a 10-7 record and another playoff appearance. However, Pittsburgh suffered another early postseason exit, leading longtime head coach Mike Tomlin to step down after nearly 2 decades with the franchise. The Steelers then hired former Green Bay Packers and Dallas Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy, reuniting Rodgers with the coach he won a Super Bowl with in Green Bay 15 years ago. Despite questions about Pittsburgh's aging roster and long-term direction, the Steelers are betting Rodgers still has enough left to keep the team competitive in the American Football Conference. This is Streaming News Network. The basketball world is mourning the loss of Brandon Clarke, the Memphis Grizzlies forward who died on May 11 at the age of 29. The Grizzlies and Clarke's agency confirmed his passing the following day, prompting an outpouring of tributes from across the National Basketball Association and the college basketball community. Clarke, a former standout at Gonzaga University, was remembered not only for his energy on the court, but also for his involvement in the community and his close relationships with teammates. Grizzlies star Ja Morant paid tribute online, saying Clarke was gone way too soon. Authorities in California are now investigating the circumstances surrounding Clarke's death. Reports indicate emergency responders were called to a residence in the San Fernando Valley on May 11 for a medical emergency. According to reports, responders found Clarke deceased at the scene, and investigators later opened a probe into a possible overdose after evidence of drug use was reportedly discovered. At this time, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office says Clarke's official cause of death has been deferred while the investigation remains ongoing. Officials say the case is still open. Clarke played 6 seasons in the National Basketball Association and was widely respected for his athleticism, hustle, and leadership both on and off the court. This is Streaming News Network. A tense exchange on Capitol Hill is drawing national attention after Brandon Gill sharply questioned Steve Descano over how his office handles criminal cases involving undocumented immigrants accused of serious crimes. During testimony before a House Judiciary Subcommittee, Gill challenged Descano about whether immigration status plays a role in charging decisions, plea agreements, and sentencing recommendations within the Fairfax County Prosecutor's Office. The questioning focused heavily on the case of José Cortés Mendez, a Guatemalan national accused in a case involving a teenage girl. According to lawmakers, Mendez was ultimately allowed to plead to a misdemeanor charge and received a 90-day jail sentence, sparking criticism from those who believe the punishment was too lenient. Descano denied that immigration status directly influenced the outcome, saying he did not believe preferential treatment had been given. He also noted that he was not the lead prosecutor assigned to the case. However, critics argued the testimony raised broader concerns about accountability and prosecutorial discretion. The hearing comes as the United States Department of Justice reportedly conducts a civil rights investigation into Descano's office related to its handling of cases involving undocumented immigrants. The debate has intensified following several high-profile crimes in Fairfax County that opponents say highlight failures within the criminal justice system. Supporters of stricter enforcement policies argue public safety must remain the top priority, while others caution against politicizing prosecutorial decisions tied to immigration issues. This is Streaming News Network. Former Tina Peters is set to be released from prison after Jared Polis commuted her sentence tied to election security crimes connected to the 2020 presidential election. Peters, a former county elections clerk and outspoken election denier, had been serving a nearly 9-year prison sentence after being convicted in 2024 on multiple charges related to unauthorized access to election equipment in Mesa County, Colorado. Officials said she arranged for an outside individual to gain access to voting system data in 2021 while attempting to preserve records tied to claims of voter fraud that seems to warrant truth lately. Governor Polis announced Friday that Peters' sentence would be reduced to 4.5 years. By the time of her release, she will have served more than 600 days behind bars. Polis said Peters did not interfere with ballot counting or alter election results, but emphasized that her actions involving illegal access to secure election systems were still criminal and warranted prison time. The governor also argued the original punishment was excessively harsh and said political speech should not have been a factor in sentencing. The decision immediately sparked controversy. Donald Trump praised the move online, while Jenna Griswold condemned the commutation, calling it damaging to election workers and democratic institutions. Peters became a national figure after promoting false claims surrounding the 2020 election, despite Colorado's results favoring former President Joe Biden by a wide margin. A dramatic water rescue off the coast of Sullivan's Island left one swimmer hospitalized Saturday evening and prompted renewed warnings about dangerous ocean currents along the South Carolina coast. According to town officials, emergency crews with Sullivan's Island Fire and Rescue were dispatched shortly before 5 o'clock near Station 16 after reports of multiple swimmers in distress. Responders arrived within minutes and discovered several people being pulled farther offshore by strong currents. Firefighters launched a jet ski rescue operation and successfully brought 8 swimmers safely back to shore using a rescue board. Officials say one victim, a 23-year-old man, was found unconscious and not breathing when rescuers reached him in the water. Crews quickly pulled him ashore and placed him in the recovery position. Authorities say the man soon regained consciousness and began breathing again. Emergency medical personnel later transported him to Medical University of South Carolina for further treatment. His current condition has not been released. Town officials say the incident remains under investigation and no additional information about the swimmers has been made public. Authorities are also reminding beachgoers to remain alert for rip currents and changing surf conditions as the busy summer season approaches. This has been a report by Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and shorts. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.